The notary squinted at the signature on the trust vote document before him. He pulled out the original trust binder from 2003 and compared. The G didn't loop the same way. Across town, Margaret measured coffee, unaware that a signature with her name had just stopped a sale. Frank removed his glasses and dialed. Some signatures you never forget.
Margaret, it's Frank. I have a trust vote with your signature. The closing is on hold.
I didn't sign any vote. Dad never even mentioned a sale. What is this?
It's a forgery. The pen strokes don't match. I am reporting it. You need to get ahead of this.
Forgery? Who would? This farm was Grandma Mary's. It can't be sold. Someone used my name to try and take the farm. After everything Mary built.
I am sending the documents. Call Angela Torres, your trust attorney. This isn't a clerical error.
Margaret stared at the forgery on her phone, then drove to the farmhouse with a knot in her stomach. William sat by the fire, ledgers on his knee. The door banged open.
Dad, did you forge my name on a trust vote? The farm is being sold, and I never agreed.
The windmill turned. The silence inside was louder than any denial.
It's a paperwork error. Frank's old. You are overreacting to a clerical mix-up. I'll call him.
He compared it to the original. The G doesn't match. It's forgery.
Outside, the fields spread peaceful. But inside the room, the air was thick with half-truths.
The farm is broke. Selling saves your inheritance. Believe me, I would never forge a signature.
His voice trembled. That same quiver from the night Mom packed her bags and left.
Margaret walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Her car kicked up dust as she drove away. By noon, all four siblings stood on the farmhouse porch. The swing creaked in the wind.
I need to know who voted to sell the farm. My name is on a document I never saw.
You said last Christmas this place was bleeding money. I thought you were in.
We all want what's best. Dad said everyone agreed. You are making this a drama.
I never agreed. I told Dad I wouldn't sign, and they better not forge my name either.
Catherine's words landed like a stone. She'd warned them. They didn't listen.
Nobody forged anything. You are paranoid, both of you.
The brothers exchanged a glance. Catherine folded her arms and looked at Margaret with heavy eyes.
I have my own vote record. I can prove I said no. What do you two have?
The porch went silent. Margaret realized the family trust wasn't broken by accident. It was broken by design. Margaret called Angela Torres. The appointment was set for 2 o'clock. The office smelled of leather-bound books and fresh ink.
I've spoken with Frank. His report is detailed. The signature variance is clear to any forensic examiner.
He mentioned reporting it. What happens now?
I've filed an emergency motion to vacate the trust vote. The sale cannot proceed until the court rules.
Angela handed Margaret a copy. Exhibit A was Frank's notary log from 2003. Exhibit B, the forged page.
I filed the report with the state notary board. They'll open an investigation. My records are complete.
Frank faxed his notary journal and the comparison sheet. Some signatures, he told Angela, were impossible to forget.
The court will schedule a hearing on trustee competency. Until then, your father is restricted from any trust decisions.
So he can't touch the farm?
Not without risking contempt of court. We've bought time, Margaret.
Margaret pulled into the lot behind Frank's office. The window light was amber through the blinds.
State board called back. Your complaint is priority listed. They're not treating this lightly.
Margaret's phone buzzed. Angela had news.
I've retained a forensic document examiner. She can start as soon as Frank sends her the 2003 originals.
Tell Angela the originals are locked in my fireproof cabinet. I'll send certified copies tonight.
Frank opened the drawer and pulled out the 2003 binder. The leather was cracked, but the pages inside were pristine.
Your grandmother sat right there. She traced that, gagged twice before signing. said it had to be perfect.
A loop of ink that carried weight across 2 decades. Mary's hand still holding the farm.
If this goes to a hearing, I'll sit on that stand and tell them what a real signature looks like.
The farm now had a witness who remembered. And in a trust war, memory was ammunition. 2 days later, William pulled up to Margaret's cottage without a call. He carried a folder and a practiced look of concern.
Margaret, you need to see these crop yield reports. The farm lost 40,000 last year.
That doesn't justify forging my name, Dad.
I am trying to save you all from bankruptcy. Your grandmother would have understood. She was practical.
Grandma Mary's last words to me were keep the land, not sell it to strangers.
You were 10. She also said, don't let the farm ruin your life. I am honoring her by being honest.
Honest. The word scraped out of his mouth like sandpaper. The court has your trustee authority frozen. If you forged my signature, you'll answer for it.
You'd put your own father through a public spectacle over a signature loop.
Margaret opened the door. William walked past her into the drive, but not before she spoke loud enough for the fields to hear. The forensic report landed on Angela's desk Thursday morning. She called Margaret immediately.
The examiner confirmed it. Your signature was forged. The vote is being vacated.
Vacated. The farm was still hers, on paper, but paper had almost stolen it once already.
Angela slid the comparison photo across the desk. The G loop was off. The T crossed wrong.
William's lawyer filed a response. He claims you gave verbal consent, that the forgery was just a formality.
I told him no to his face last summer. He said he'd handle it without me.
Then we fight that. The court will hear it at the trustee removal hearing. It's set for the 23rd.
The sale was dead. The vote was void, but the trust itself was still under William's name.
One battle won. But the real fight was for who controlled the land.
Get Catherine ready. Her testimony will be crucial. Frank is already prepared.
Catherine called early. Voice quiet, she asked Margaret to come to her kitchen. The coffee was already made.
I need to tell you what I heard about the signature.
She poured tea, hands steady. The story she told made Margaret's blood run cold.
Dad came to me in March. He said you'd agreed to the sale, but I knew you hadn't. He said if I didn't sign, he'd find a way around me. Called it family efficiency. Then I heard him on the phone with Michael, planning the vote. They mentioned your signature.
Frank's forgery scare wasn't a fluke. It was step 1 of a plan. Will you testify to that in court?
I'll tell the judge everything. He doesn't get to erase us.
Margaret squeezed her sister's hand. For the first time, the trust felt like it had 2 protectors. The hearing room smelled of old wood and floor wax. Margaret took her seat behind Angela. William sat across the aisle.
Exhibit A, the original trust signature from 2003. Exhibit B, the forged vote. The G loop is a clear mismatch.
I notarized Mary's signature 22 years ago. She traced that God twice. It was deliberate. This new signature isn't hers.
Catherine's affidavit was entered. She had refused to sign and overheard William planning the forgery. William's attorney argued verbal consent, but the judge cut him off. This court has seen enough to order an investigation. Mr. Caldwell, you will surrender all trust documents.
He had the keys for decades. Now he was just a man at a table, empty-handed.
The judge appointed a court examiner to take control of the trust for 30 days. William was suspended as trustee.
This is step 1. If the examiner finds fraud, he'll be removed permanently.
Outside the courthouse, the sun hit the fields. The farm didn't know it had won a round. But Margaret did. 3 weeks later, the examiner's report arrived. Angela called Margaret and Catherine to her office.
The court accepted all findings. Your father mismanaged assets and committed fraud. He is permanently removed.
So the trust is safe. Who runs it now?
You and Margaret. The judge appointed both of you co-trustees. The farm is under your control.
The weight of the moment pressed in. Then Margaret's phone shattered the silence.
Your brothers just filed a demand. They want their share of the trust paid out immediately. They're threatening to sue for partition if you don't buy them out within 60 days.
We thought the fight was over, but for them, it was just the beginning.
How much? And how fast can we raise it without selling the land?
2 million. They want market value. You have 58 days or the farm gets listed.
The next afternoon, dust from a pickup swirled up the lane. Michael and Peter stepped out, arms crossed.
2 million, Margaret. Not a penny less. We've waited long enough for what's ours.
We already talked to a lawyer. If you can't pay us out, the judge forces a sale.
This farm is our home, not a check. There has to be a way that doesn't break the land.
You are no better than Dad. He tried to steal it with a pen. You are trying with a lawsuit.
Spare us the moral act. The trust says equal share. Either you buy us out, or we all lose it.
Catherine stepped forward, but Margaret pulled her back.
We'll get the money, but don't ever set foot on this land again after that.
You've got 57 days. We'll be watching the clock.
The truck rumbled down the lane. Margaret stared at the wheat. 57 days to save it. The bank's loan officer laid down the farm appraisal. The number was high, but so were the terms.
5.2% over 15 years. We'd be one bad season from foreclosure.
If we sell off the east pasture, we could lower the loan. But Mary would never forgive us.
Every option felt like bleeding the farm to save it.
The loan officer pushed a pen across the table. Approval was contingent on keeping the entire acreage as collateral.
We sign this, we don't just risk the farm. We risk our peace for a decade.
We have 49 days. This is the only door that's open.
They walked out with a pre-approval letter that felt heavier than the deed itself.
A mortgage on Mary's land. She'd built without debt, and we were about to pile it on.
The farm stood silent under the setting sun. The wheat would grow, but the debt would too. 4 days later, Margaret sat at the kitchen table past midnight. Bills fanned out beside the loan papers.
46 days. The brothers' deadline was a countdown to a court-ordered public auction.
Her phone vibrated. Angela's name flashed.
Your brothers hired a heavy firm. They scheduled a motion hearing for the partition suit.
Can we fight it?
We can delay, but legal fees alone could devour 30% of your loan before a judge even rules.
Margaret's eyes fell on the examiner's report, buried under the loan papers. She pulled it out. Page 12. William had collected $80,000 in trustee fees over 4 years.
That money belonged to the trust. He paid himself to steal from us. Now he would pay it back.
She pushed the chair back. Before another sunrise, she would knock on William's door. At dawn, she pulled up to a weathered apartment complex. William's unit was number 4. He answered in a stained undershirt, coffee cup trembling. His face fell when he saw the report in her hand.
$80,000 in trustee fees you paid yourself. The examiner documented every cent.
That's compensation for decades of managing the farm while you were off living your life.
You forged my signature. That's a felony. And Frank will testify. You have one way out.
She thrust a document toward him. His hand shook as he read the restitution agreement.
You'd send your own father to prison?
I'd send the man who tried to steal my grandmother's land. Sign it, or I call the prosecutor now.
The fight drained from his shoulders. He reached for the pen. In thin blue ink, he signed away $80,000 and any claim to the farm. Margaret didn't flinch. 5 days later, the trust account showed an incoming deposit of $80,000. William's restitution had cleared.
With this, we can structure a buyout that gives you control and satisfies the court.
They'll never agree to anything but cash. We need a hammer.
The hammer is their exposure. They signed the forged vote. Accept this, or we report them as accessories.
Even in victory, the fight was dirty. But Mary didn't raise a fool.
The terms: 70% of market value, paid over 3 years. They forfeit trustee rights and never return.
70% is still a huge number, but we can manage without that crippling loan.
I'll courier the offer today. They have 3 days to accept, or we file the accessory charges.
The envelope sat on the receptionist's desk like a live grenade. 3 days to decide. Margaret drove home with the sunset in her eyes. A different kind of countdown had begun. On the third day, Michael and Peter arrived at Angela's office with a lawyer. No one shook hands.
You've read the terms. Sign, and the accessory charges disappear. Refuse, and we file before noon.
You've got us boxed in. Fine, but this was always our land too.
Just give me the pen.
The pen scratched across the pages. First Michael, then Peter. No one smiled.
The first payment will be transferred within the hour. Your trustee rights are revoked effective immediately.
The brothers stood, chairs scraping. They walked out without looking back. Margaret's phone rang. Angela's voice was steady.
It's done. They signed. The farm is legally yours and Catherine's.
The farm was finally theirs. Not just a trust, but a home with no more hands trying to pull it apart.
The morning after the signing, Margaret walked the edge of the east field. For the first time, the ground felt steady. She found Catherine in the kitchen, humming while she kneaded dough. The house smelled like yeast and possibility.
I want this harvest dedicated to Mary. Her name hasn't been spoken enough around here.
She'd love that. And we should mark it with a dinner. A small one. Just those who stood with us.
Margaret opened a drawer and pulled out a piece of stationery from Mary's old desk. The guest list began with Frank.
Without his memory, the farm would be a subdivision by now.
She added Catherine's name, then paused. Across the room, a photograph of Mary hung crooked.
Dad's name doesn't go on this paper. He doesn't get to sit at this table.
Catherine nodded, a long silence passing between them. Then she reached for the invitation phone.
I'll call Frank. He'll probably want to bring his wife and that old embosser as a centerpiece.
By dawn on harvest day, Margaret and Catherine knelt in the garden, fixing a small brass plaque into the soil. It read, "In memory of Mary Caldwell, who planted these fields, and in whose hands this land will forever remain." By evening, the farmhouse windows glowed. A single long table was set with candles and the last of the harvest. Frank arrived with his wife, carrying that old embosser in a leather case. He set it on the table like a relic.
When Mary signed that trust, she didn't know it would take a notary with perfect memory to defend it. We owe you everything, Frank.
I just read the ink. The ghee did the rest. This farm always knew who its people were.
Catherine lifted her glass before anyone could speak. Her voice broke the quiet.
To Mary, who taught us that land isn't just dirt. It's a promise.
Everyone drank. The embosser caught the candlelight, its small G stamp facing the room like a quiet judge. The dinner ended only when the candles burned low. Outside, the wheat fields whispered the news. The farm stays. After the last guest left, Margaret walked Frank to his car. The porch light flickered above them.
She'd be proud, Margaret. Mary always said the ink would outlast the noise.
Margaret reached into her jacket and pulled out a small frame. Inside was a photograph. Mary sitting at Frank's desk, pen in hand, 2003.
I found it in her album. You two looked so serious. She said you made her sign twice.
Frank took the frame. His hands trembled slightly. Not from age, but from memory flooding back.
She wanted the ghee perfect. I told her the law didn't care about loops, but she did. She said the land deserved it.
He looked at the photo, then at the fields beyond the porch. The night wind carried the scent of cut wheat.
He wasn't just a notary. He was the keeper of her last signature, and now the savior of ours.
They shook hands, then Margaret leaned in and hugged him. The embosser case sat on the passenger seat as he drove down the lane. His taillights disappeared, but the farmhouse lights stayed on. Some debts are paid in gratitude, not dollars. Margaret walked back into the dining room and began stacking plates. The embosser still sat at the head of the table. Catherine appeared in the doorway, drying her hands on a towel. She didn't speak at first. They cleared the plates. One chair stood alone against the wall, its plate untouched.
I thought setting his place would make me angry. It just feels finished.
He made his choice. We made ours. The farm is whole because of it.
Catherine leaned against the table and looked out the window where the fields lay dark under half a moon.
No more lawyers, no more schemes. Just dirt, wheat, and us.
Margaret blew out the last candle. The wisp of smoke curled toward the ceiling like a signature. They walked to the porch and stood shoulder to shoulder. The farm was quiet, and for once, the silence didn't feel like waiting. Some families pass land through love, others through battle. Tonight, the land just rested. The morning was gray, then gold. Margaret slipped on her boots and walked out before the sun cleared the horizon. She followed the tractor path up the rise until she stood at the farm's highest point. The wheat seemed to breathe. From there, the whole 400 acres lay open. The farmhouse, the barn, Mary's garden with its new plaque.
This land is your roots. You don't just own it. You belong to it.
The sun broke over the field edge, gold flooding down, warming the soil. Catching the brass plaque in the garden far below, she felt no victory, only a quiet settling. The kind Mary had promised comes when you protect what you love. Her phone was still, and for once, there were no voices. The land didn't need words. She stayed until the sun was up and high, then turned back along the path. The promise was kept. Behind her, the farm rolled on uninterrupted. No for sale sign, no partition, just roots. She walked down through the wheat, her shape becoming part of the land that had never really stopped being hers. The harvest rolled through the county. The combine cut wide arcs under a pale blue sky. In Mary's garden, the brass plaque caught the noon sun. The words had already started to weather. Smoke rose from the farmhouse chimney, thin and constant, a signal the house was alive. No auction sign hung on the fence post. No surveyors marked the lines. The trust vote that tried to break this place was ash now, buried in a file drawer. But the farm stayed. The farm stayed in the family. And the notary, who remembered a ghee loop from 22 years before, still had his name on a plaque. No one would ever see. The wind moved through the wheat, the same way it always had. Unchanged, untouched, one woman, one signature, one small loop of ink. That was all it took to hold 400 acres. The farm is still hers.